Hello, everybody. I am so excited to be here. I am excited to be here with you guys, and I'm really excited to talk about this topic of gifts and accessories because I know that gifts and accessories are a really underutilized part of our business, right? I remember being a brand new representative, and to be very straightforward, I did not know a thing about gifts and accessories for like a long time. I didn't know how to show them. I didn't know how to talk about them. And because of that, I certainly didn't sell many gifts and accessories because I just didn't know enough. And once I started to learn how to talk about them, how to show them, how to sell them, that's when I actually started adding on a lot of those things to my orders. I started selling gifts. I started actually selling sets as gifts, right? And just really being able to learn how to talk about them made a really big impact. Now, I want you to think about it. Do you think it's possible that somebody spends multiple hundreds of dollars on knives and then buys a whole bunch of gifts, gadgets, and accessories? Do you think that's possible? Totally. Now, by the way, even if someone is spending a few $100s, even just like $200 to $300, do you think it's pretty easy for somebody to add on a $50 gadget? Totally, right? It would be the same thing as you adding on chips to your order at Chipotle, right? No big deal. It's the same thing for a customer, for an HM30, it's just a different scale, right? Now, on the other end of the spectrum, do you think it's possible for someone to not need a whole bunch of knives, but instead need to replace their entire drawer full of gadgets? Totally, right? Or do you think it's possible that they don't need a ton of stuff, but they have a wedding coming up that they need to get something for? Or they have a sister that has a birthday who loves to cook? Right? They need something like a gift in a really big way. You think that's possible? Totally. So the point is you never know what someone actually has the need for and what they're going to be super interested in. Now, I'd like you to answer this, and I promise I have zero judgment with however you answer this question because I've been there. How many of you, by a show of hands, how many of you have ever done a demo where you didn't even show the customer any gifts or accessories the entire time? I'll be the first to raise my hand. Okay. Yeah, like all of us, right? And if you didn't raise your hand and it's true that you have never done that, I'm impressed, okay? That's how it goes sometimes, right? And I know that I did my job right if I showed the customer everything, okay? And that is super common for someone to do, to not show anything until you actually learn how to show it to them and how to talk about them. So I want you to write down the number one most important thing when it comes to gifts and accessories. Share my screen here now. Maybe. There we go. So the number one most important thing when it comes to gifts and accessories. I'm all mixed up now. There we go. Number one most important thing is that the customer has to see everything that we make. Okay, they have to know that we have it. Why? Because if the customer doesn't know that we have it, they can't buy it. Right? Sometimes as a rep, we kind of get confused because we've done the presentation so much. We're Cutco trained. We know everything that we have. So we sometimes forget that the customer doesn't. Right? But how can the customer buy it if they don't know that we have it? They may have seen the presentation once, maybe twice before. Some people have never seen it. So they just don't know everything that we have. I can't tell you the amount of Cutco owners that have said to me, that I've met with, that have said, oh my gosh, I didn't even know that you guys make hunting knives or pots and pans or gardening tools, right? And I mentioned this before, I know that I've done my job right when every customer I meet with knows about everything that we make. It doesn't mean that they're going to buy everything, but if I at least show everything to everybody, that's how I know I've done my job right? And I'm not leaving any CPO on the table, okay? Now, when you're talking about gifts and accessories, the most important thing is actually I shouldn't say the most important thing, a very important thing is bringing it up right away. So talking about the gifts and accessories right away at the beginning of your presentation. They have to know that we have more than just knives right at the beginning of the demo. We call this a seed plant. Okay. Now, when you do this correctly, the customer now spends the entire presentation with the thought in the back of their mind of, I wonder what else they have other than just knives. Right. So I would say, I'm going to give you this line here. I would say this line at the beginning of the presentation. If I was you, I would add it right after the line in your manual where it's like, today I'll tell you why Cutco is the top selling American-made brand. By the way, I only work through referrals. So right before you talk about the actual company. Okay, so I'm going to go to this slide here. I'm going to post this in the chat. So don't feel like you have to write all this down. I'm going to post it in the chat for you in just a second and you can just copy and paste it, but I'm going to read it out loud for you. Okay, so you want to talk about this right at the beginning of the demo. We call this the Cutco Kitchen Seed Plant. where you actually talk about more than just the knives right away. So here's how it goes. I'll zoom in a little bit. So just so you know, most of our clients are actually working towards what they call the Cutco kitchen. Lots of people know about us and they think we're just a knife company, but we're actually a full service kitchen company. And most people we find actually have a hodgepodge of pots and pans, silverware, a drawer or multiple drawers full of gadgets and accessories that they bought over the years, plus a block and a drawer full of knives, half of which they never use. You know what I'm talking about? Yeah, right. Just like most people. Well, what's cool is that when you get it all here with Cutco, what's great is that you're going to have a product that you're going to have for the rest of your life. It's an American company, so you're supporting the American economy. And because of our guarantee, which I'll explain to you, you'll have and use this every single day. So imagine if you ever remodel your kitchen or if you ever move or anything like that, what's cool is that you'll never have to upgrade your knives, cookware, flatware, or accessories again, because you already have the best of the best and you'll have it for the rest of your life. Okay, so I'll post this in the chat so you don't have to worry about typing it all out. Okay, maybe. Man, you think I'd be better at the Zoom thing, huh? After a whole year? Holy smokes. Oh, psych. I can't post in the chat. It looks like the pace is off, but I will send this out before we're done.
For you. You're good.
Okay, thank you. We'll get it sent out. But this is a seed plant, okay? So what this does is it opens up the customer to the idea of, wow, there's way more than just knives. I wonder what else there is. They start thinking, wonder what else they have, okay? It's such an important part in the presentation, okay? And then you're gonna move right into the presentation the same way that you normally would. You're gonna close on the knives, you're gonna go through the demo, talk about the homemaker, all that stuff, okay? Then afterwards, go to my next slide. My goodness, what is going on with my, there we go. Now, after you're done with the actual demo, so when you figure out what they want to buy, whether it's a homemaker, galley, starter set, individual pieces, whatever, after you've closed on that, whether they're getting a whole set or whatever, they still need to see all of the gifts and accessories, okay? Trust me, you'll end up having people that don't buy a ton of knives, but they spend a few $100s on gifts or gadgets, okay? So after you've closed on the knives, I'm going to give you another line that I'm going to end up sending out to you. Okay. But this is another seed plant that you're going to talk about right after you're done closing on the knives. Okay. So now let me try going to my next slide if it'll let me. Okay. And then we'll go back to that one. Okay. So here's the next one. So it says, when you talk about gifts, so it's like, hey, Mrs. Jones, I bet you've spent a lot of money on gifts for people over the years. This should say people, not them. So I bet you've spent a lot of money on gifts for people over the years. Now, if you were totally honest with yourself, do you think they remember what you gave them for Christmas last year or the year before? Honestly, I bet you don't even remember a lot of what you gave them. And it's not that they don't appreciate it, but it just all kind of runs together after a while. That's why the family program is so special. Most people will most people will spend more doing this than a normal gift, but they'll use it forever. They'll think of you every time, and they'll connect it to family and spending time together. No one ever forgets who gave them their Cutco. I've met with so many customers who talk about the set of Cutco that their parents bought them or their grandparents gave them. It becomes a really cool generational connection. Okay, and that's it. That's all you say right there initially about the about gifts and accessories. We call it another seed plant. Okay. So you're not immediately asking after that, so would you like to get a gift for your kid's upcoming birthday? You're not asking that. That would be like telling somebody the price of Cutco over the phone and asking if they want to get it before they've even seen it, okay? So you're not asking for the order yet, you're just seed planting. So now at the end of the presentation, when you actually start, you guys know the line in your manual where it's like, hey, before I write that up, let's look at gifts and accessories. So you're going to say that, same way that you normally would in the presentation. Now you're going to start scrolling through the back. And now what they're thinking is, I did have a gift for somebody that I needed to get, or, I didn't think they had other stuff. And now they're thinking like, I wonder what else I could get, right? Now, when you're actually scrolling through, here are the questions that you want to ask while you're scrolling through the presentation. Okay, so I would write these down. Here are questions to ask as you're scrolling through the slides in the back of your presentation that have the cookware, the pots and pans, the flatware, the hunting tools, all that, okay? So great questions to ask are, so how many weddings do you have this year? right? How many weddings do you have this year? Who do you know that blank, right? Any slide you could ask that on. Who do you know that hunts? Who do you know that fishes? Who do you know that golfs, right? We have a little golf mate. That's a great little gift for somebody, right? Who do you know that gardens? Who do you know that loves to cook? Here's a great one. Who do you know that has a birthday in the next 12 months? That went right over some of your guys' heads. That's okay. Okay. Who do you know that has a birthday in the next 12 months? Fun fact, everybody has a birthday in the next 12 months, okay? It's a great one. They always laugh, and then it gets them thinking like, oh, I guess I could get this for my kid's birthday in 10 months, right? A really easy way to ask for the order, hey, would you like me to toss that onto your order? If you notice that someone is asking a question about a certain piece, like let's say you get to the gadgets, and they're like, oh, you guys have a pizza cutter? How's that one? And you're like, oh my gosh, the pizza cutter is awesome. Here's what's so cool about the pizza cutter is that you can actually pop the blade out so you can clean it really easy. It's dishwasher safe. And what's super cool is that the pizza cutter, it's really strong, but it doesn't need to be super sharp. So I could actually run over my hand with the pizza cutter and it's not going to cut it. But it's amazing on pizza because it's really strong. So if you have kids at home, it's really safe and you don't have to worry about it. Would you like me to toss that onto your order? That one's only 54 bucks, let's call it. Would you like me to toss that onto your order? How many? Right? Someone says, yeah, you know what? Let's toss on one of those hunting knives. Okay, awesome. I can do that. How many would you like? Our top reps, they will ask how many on sets. So if someone is selling like a homemaker set, guess what? Our top reps, they will actually say, okay, cool. How many? I remember the first time I ever heard that, someone was telling me, it was like my first summer, and they were like, oh my gosh, you got to ask how many when next time you sell a homemaker. And I was like, are you serious? Like, I can't ask that. Right? How many homemakers? Who do you think I am? Right? And they're like, trust me, you got to do it. And then finally, like a couple days later, I was like selling a homemaker and I was like, okay, I'm going to say it. I'm going to say it. Right? I said, okay, cool. How many? And they said, they like looked at each other and they were like, well, maybe we should get one for the cabin. Yeah. Why don't we do 2 of those? And I was like, oh my God, it worked. Right? So our top reps will say that on the homemaker. Do you think you could say that for a gadget? Or a hunting knife or a starter set? Totally, right? I've had people that will typically they'll think they're going to buy 1 hunting knife. And I say, cool, how many? And they're like, you know what? Maybe I should get 1 for each of my brothers for Christmas. Yeah, let's do 4 of those, right? Such an easy way. And it just allows people to open up their mind to what they actually might need, right? Otherwise, they might just think of 1 and they might not even think that they would need more, okay? The other thing that you should do when you're going through the gadgets and accessories is pick a couple of your favorites or like customer favorites, right? Like a cheese knife or whatever, and really dive into those. It's okay to be an expert. Because in this situation with your customer, are you the expert? Totally, right? You're the knife expert. Did you guys ever think that you'd be considered a knife expert in your entire life? Probably not, but look at you. Here you are. Apparently Ashley did. That's awesome, okay? Most people, not really, but here you are. You're the knife expert. So when you're meeting with a customer, it's okay to dive in and give them advice, right? Hey, Mrs. Jones, check this out. This is the can opener. This is one of my customers' absolute favorites. Okay, what's really cool about this one is it has a little magnet on the nose. So when you're cutting open your can, you don't have to stick a fork in there or cut your finger trying to get the lid out of the can. It just lifts it up right with it with the magnet. It's awesome. Do you ever open anything, right? Do you ever use a can opener? Awesome. Do you think you get use out of this? Cool. Well, this one's only 54 bucks. Do you want me to toss that one onto your order? Super easy, right? Would you like me to toss that onto your order? Simple. No big deal. Okay. The BD expert, dive in. You're allowed to do that. Okay. So remember, what did I say at the very beginning? What is the most important thing when it comes to gifts and accessories? The number one thing is that the customer has to see everything that we have, right? If they don't know that we make it, they can't buy it. You've done your job right. If you leave the demo and you're done with the presentation and you're clicking end on Zoom, if you have showed everything to the customer, it doesn't mean that they buy everything, doesn't mean that they buy a full kitchen, but you did your job right. And if you ever meet with a Cutco owner and they say, oh yeah, I did know that you guys make gadgets. I did know that you guys make pots and pans. Then you know that the previous Cutco rep did their job right, right? You should get excited if you ever meet with a Cutco owner and they say, oh, I actually didn't know that you make pots and pans. You should be excited. Why? Because you're about to do a better demo than the last person, because you're showing them everything. Okay. People's budgets are different for different things. It's possible that someone doesn't spend a ton of knives and they end up wanting to get a whole set of cookware, flatware, a bunch of gadgets, right? You never know what the, exciting thing is going to be for somebody and what they want to spend their money on. Okay. So go sell some gifts and accessories. I hope that stuff helps. My recommendation for you too would be practice saying this stuff out loud, right? Practice makes perfect. And, the first time you do it with a customer, you're not going to be perfect. So I think it's worth it to spend some time saying this out loud, practicing it, reading over those little scripts. We'll find a way to get those sent out, those little like excerpts, whatever that I had up there, and use those because they're really helpful. Thanks, guys. That's what I have.